So I'm here with my fellow alumnus from the May cohort of Makers Academy, Nadav, and we are just going to work on the statistics branch, or at least talk about the statistics branch of website 1. So, yeah, and then at the end of the call, this video gets kind of automatically saved to the Agile Ventures page, so it's all quite cool. Do you know the Agile Ventures website?
Very little. I've just signed up basically and kind of browsed a little bit, but not a lot.
All right. Well, I'll start screen sharing now. And in fact, just one sec. Stop screen sharing for a sec and turn off the camera. Yeah. So hopefully you can see my screen at the moment. It's probably just a endless echo. Let me make it something more useful.
Yeah, I can see like 600 of them.
Yeah. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, so that's the other thing. These things are really cool for pair programming because you can just very easily see what the other person's doing. So basically, this thing itself. So Agile Ventures. I mean, I still don't exactly know the scope of it, but it's Sam and the guy Thomas who was in Scrum. I think it's their own kind of they started it at least, although I think they're quite keen to make it a sort of anarchic collective more than their project. But yeah, so it's I think the main thing is really like getting people together to pair program and learn. And there's some really like the guys who work on this are really patient. Like most of them are much more experienced than me, and they're just happy to sort of have pairing sessions with me where not much happens except them telling me, sort of talking me through bits of code. But yeah, I guess the idea is sort of trying to set up a hub for pairing for anyone. So then to that end, sort of, they have this list of projects down here. Okay. So yeah, I might have to disappear at some stage if Samantha comes on, because I've been trying to get these two to talk for the moment. Yeah, if Sam's around, I'll have to stop and chat to her for a bit and then carry on with you. But in the meantime, so yeah, there's this list of projects here, each of these arrows, which they work on, and various different people seem to be involved in them. The one that I've been doing is this website itself, this whole thing, which is down here as website 1. I'll show you how I created this Hangout. If you just click this link.
Hang on. You've been working on the Agile Ventures website itself?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I haven't really personally added much to it. There was, this guy here is the main guy who works on it, but I've been pairing with him a lot. He's been sort of helping me figure out what I'm doing. So yeah, and you can see I've got this link here, Start Hangout on Air, which is how which is just what you do to create a Hangout that's linked to Agile Ventures. And then when you do that, it will then automatically send a message like this. Okay.
It sends the message to anyone who's signed up for the specific project? Is that the idea?
Yes, I think so. I'm not sure exactly how discerning it is, because there's general, which is obviously not a specific project. So in fact, this has gone into the general channel rather than the website 1 channel, which it's gone into both by the looks of it. I don't know if that's intentional or not. I thought it was only supposed to go into this one, but they had some problems with it recently, so they've fixed it, and I'm not sure if that's still deliberate that it's going into both of them. Anyways, I'll just show you quickly like the stuff, the code behind it all, I guess. I have it open already. Quite a lot of it. I mean, I get lost in this very, very easily. So, like, don't feel like you need to know what the hell's everything does. But it's a Rails project, so there's
Yeah, that was my question basically. It looks like a Rails project, okay.
Yeah, so the basic layout should look kind of familiar. Yeah, we've got yeah, migrations in here, quite a few of them.
Which database is it working with?
I think it's Postgres. I don't actually know. Maybe this will PG, I guess. Yeah. So yeah, so that should be familiar as well. Ish. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we did on the course. I'm like, I theoretically know this. Still getting my head around a little bit.
Tell me about it.
But so yeah, and again, I mean, yeah, like, so this sort of should all look familiar, but 10 times the amount of anything we ever really touched on the course. I mean, this is just a gem file. This is the testing bit for the gem file. DeLorean, great. So I have no idea what most of these gems do. I'm basically working on a little sliver of this at a time. And I asked them, like, is it worth trying to read through the whole thing or skim through the whole thing and just get a feel for it? And they said, just don't even bother. If you're working on a particular bit, then try and focus on just the things that you need to learn for that bit. So yeah, what else is worth showing generally? I mean, obviously you got sort of all these models, users, and then well, basically, if you can sort of go to website one itself, and it's probably easier to get a feel for what you'll find on there. And then if you're curious about any feature, you can then maybe look it up in here rather than looking randomly at files in here that possibly don't say anything very useful if you take them out of context.
My assumption is it's all on GitHub, right?
Yes, yeah. It's so I've certainly got here we go. So it's Agile Ventures /website one. So you can just fork this and play with it as much as you like. So yeah, so I've got my own little branch here forked away, and this is basically me and Thomas have been doing this. So I'll show you what the actual thing that we're working on at the moment is supposed to be.
Yeah, I glimpsed something like 2,000 something commits. That's impressive.
I mean, a lot of people work on this and have been for quite a while. It's pretty well established. So it's, for me, like, the most useful thing of it has been not necessarily any specific bit of here's that gem that I should learn to use. It's just a sense of coming into a big project that already was well underway before I got there and kind of trying to stay afloat among everything, which I think is quite an art in itself. But yeah, so I'll show you the tiny thing we're working on at the moment, which is down here at the bottom of the whole page. You've got this dashboard link.
Yep.
And if you click that, you get this this information, which is sort of dynamically updated. You have to refresh the page, but whenever anyone does anything, it will increment one of these. Does anything relevant, it will increment the relevant number.
So this dashboard is basically it's a general feature. It's not user specific.
Yeah, no. This tells you it's actually surprisingly low. I guess that 15 articles have been published. I haven't actually been to the articles page to check that, but I assume that's right. Yeah, that looks 15-ish, maybe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, yeah. So one of the things that they want to do, or that Thomas wants to do, is add the amount of minutes people spend doing exactly what we're doing now in a Hangout doing kind of pair programming.
Okay.
Or the amount of minutes, and separately the amount of minutes that people spend in scrums, again in Hangouts. So when you generate a Hangout via this thing, via projects page or whatever, it will automatically start incrementing the number of minutes, and that is already happening behind the scenes, I think. So the idea is just to add that detail to here, but then also beyond that to sort of make this a bit more interesting to look at, and possibly a bit more specific. So if we go back to projects, we've got like under the website one section, Thomas has put like just a static image of how he envisions it looking at the end. So under features and request and design, let me just actually try doing this. Yeah, I've been like trying to arrange a chat with makers to ask them about like how to start sending out CVs, but I don't know. I never use HipChat for anything else, so I'm not sure if I think I'm like not always getting messages to them. Yeah.
Why not send them an email? Just set up a meeting.
Yeah, well, I sent them an email and they said let's take it to HipChat.
I see.
Which, yeah, this was just last Friday, but ever since then, that's what I've been trying to do.
Okay.
But yeah, so yeah, so this is just an image here. This whole section is like it's just like a JPEG or something. But the idea would be something a bit more along these lines, that you see these numbers down here, and maybe each of these numbers you click on, and it would take you to a different type of data visualization for that thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, this map would presumably be users, because they save user location by tracking user IP from where they last logged on. So they could do a map like this that colors itself in according to how many people have logged in from what areas. So that's basically the next thing. That's what we're trying to make happen next. And then he's also got below this. I mean, I'm not sure. Maybe I'm going to. Well, no. Let's just take you through it. I'm thinking. I don't know if you'll end up working on this specifically, given that it's quite a specific thing of one of the many projects available. But given that we're here, I guess I might as well take you through it. I don't know how representative it is of sort of the way people approach these projects in general, but I suspect it's not wildly unusual. So again, this is just, these sections are, because we don't really have a good seed for the development environment data. Thomas put this up here to show you what it would look like with actual real data, without you necessarily having to interact regularly with real data. So he's just showing what this would return at the point when he did actually run it, which was this hash with the number of people in each country, plus nil for those who for some reason can't be tracked. And then, yeah, there's sort of extra things here. Yeah, sorted by where the most of them come from. Interestingly, India's third and Russia's fourth. Wouldn't necessarily have guessed that.
You're saying this is not real data, basically.
This stuff is. It's basically Thomas ran this on what was at the time real data and saved the result. Pasted the result to this page as static text.
Okay.
So it's just to give you a sense of, I guess, he wants to sort of show you some methods that he might have implemented, like user.group country. I don't know if that's his own method or if that's a devise method, but some stuff that we should be aware of that is available, and yeah, and the return results, I guess, to give you a rough idea. Yeah. I'm not sure what to do about it being shit. I'll wait further instructions. I should probably actually respond because I do. What's happened? I might need to disappear. So that's where we are with this stuff. So this image itself came from an external thing that I can't remember off the top of my head. That Thomas was initially like planning to go for, since it seems as good as anything else. But I think he's worried that the code it uses is a bit too black boxy, so he might be thinking about changing it. But I think the plan is still to go ahead with. Let's see if I can find the bloody thing. Dashboard. Yeah, yeah, high charts. That was it.
Are we talking about a gem or an API?
I guess it's an API. It's not. Yeah, it's not really using Ruby. It's importing some JavaScript onto the page. Although obviously it will have to interact with the database in Ruby. But yeah, so this is the thing. So the plan at the moment, I think, is to use this for now. So this is a sort of dynamically updated example, although the data it uses is just random numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so at the moment, where are we? Oh, and the other thing I'll say about all of this is like they're really, really keen on testing. Like they go like to extremes, even I think by Makers Academy standards with test-driven stuff. So like that, I think that basically every bit of text that you see on Agile Ventures, the site, whether it's static or dynamic, as long as it's actually from their code and not from a gem like or not from some kind of external API, like for example, oops, missed. So like for example, this being an exception, the start hangout on air line, but I think basically otherwise all the text that you see on the website is going to actually be in a test somewhere. So they're even going to the point where they test for the presence of strings.
That's actually interesting because I've been talking to some developers, and people have varied views about whether or not. I mean, the back end should always be tested, obviously, but the front end, I've heard some, very different opinions about how testable it is or should be. Sorry, my wife. Give me a sec.
Okay, sure.
Sorry. Hey, Sasha.
Hello.
Apologies.
All right.
I always take calls from my wife, regardless of anything. Uh, um, we were talking about testing and front end and back end.
Yeah.
Just as an aside, I mean, because what people said was essentially that because the front end tends to change so much, testing becomes, ineffective in a sense.
Yeah. So the same thing has occurred to me. I mean, I don't have a strong view, and I think like what you said, I agree with literally that people seem to have a whole range of views. I haven't noticed any one particular view dominating, except that sort of TDD in some abstract sense is good. But yeah, I don't know. To me, testing actual static strings seems, for example, maybe too much. But I'm sort of trying not to form opinions on this stuff yet.
Yeah, me too.
I think it's better to just follow the more experienced coders who I'm with. Because if I start second guessing the people who are sort of helping me learn, then I just end up in a sort of not in a good place to be able to learn from them.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so yeah, maybe in 6 months' time I'll come back to them and argue the point, or maybe I'll end up agreeing with them and thinking that actually there are good reasons for doing. So yeah, so that was what I was going to say. So if you look in the test, they've got well, I'll show you the test running actually. Maybe don't want to stare at this for the entire duration, but you'll get a sense of how much is going on here. Maybe if I can just slide this off somewhere.
Aspect was possibly the first familiar thing I've seen so far.
Yeah.
Oh, the gem file too.
Yeah. No, have you used Factory Girl?
No, I mean I came across it quite a few times, but I kind of felt more comfortable doing it, manually.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure how much labor it saves. Though I've seen quite a lot of people use it.
Yeah, I'm still in a similar position. I mean, from what I gather, it's not so much labor saving as it is processor saving when you run the tests. So the idea is instead of actually, and I don't know, I have no idea why this is quicker, but apparently it is, instead of accessing the database every time you want to test something about some type of model, you create that model and just access that quickly. And apparently that's a lot faster than actually creating a model in the database and then accessing it.
I'm not sure I follow you.
Yeah, I'm not sure I follow me either.
Because
so when you okay, so suppose let me give a concrete example as much as I can. There you go, 724 examples. There's also Cucumber. Has about as many again and takes a lot longer to run. And this will maybe give a sense. But so say for example your project has users, and your users have, I don't know, age or something. You want to test maybe that at some stage checks that if a user enters a certain number, that number becomes their age and is maybe displayed somewhere. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah.
So without Factory Girl, what you would do is in the test you would kind of maybe create, do whatever user.create, age colon 27 or whatever.
Yeah.
And then that user would be, and you would save that user, and you would use them. You maybe call them user or Obama or something, and then you would access them, and look at their age attribute in whichever test you wanted to do. So you've created a real user on the test database. You've saved that user to the test database, or creating and saving are sort of nebulous, but you sort of created the data for when you've saved him into the test database. You've then gone in, accessed the database, drawn out the attributes that you saved for him, and checked that they're working the way they should be. And then at the end of the test, you delete that user from the database so that he doesn't contaminate it for the next test that you run. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense.
So what Factory Girl, and I'm much less sure about this bit, seems to do is it's essentially like a mocker or a stubber for that process. So instead of actually putting something on the database, you say somehow, I'm going to call this attribute on this thing, and I want this thing to act exactly like a user. and I want you to pretend that it's a user who's put in the age attribute 27. But you never actually go through to this thing which is actually your real database. You just sort of have this hovering around in your tests.
Okay. And I can understand why this saves time, but here's what I don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
The whole idea is kind of to test the process in which you go into that's usually the purpose of the test, to kind of go through the process of, reaching into the database, grabbing the data, and doing something with it. If you're bypassing it, then obviously it will save you time, but what are you testing exactly?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, my guess is that you have sort of various different levels of test. You see, by the way, on the right, we're still going through Cucumber.
Yep.
You see it just on the right of my screen.
Yep.
Cucumber is just still running, so
Yeah,
you can see why, like, being able to save time on this is potentially quite valuable.
we're moving from crazy to insane in about 200 tests or something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I guess, and I don't know, that because you have these different levels of tests, the bigger your project gets, the more of a sort of hierarchy of tests you have.
Yep.
You probably do want to have some, maybe, that access the database in exactly the normal way and check that it behaves the way you think it should. I'm not sure about that. I mean, possibly in an ideal world, you never want to have that, on the grounds that the database is an external thing and you're not supposed to test someone else's code. When you take someone else's code, you take it on the assumption that it's going to do what it says, and then you might test like things that happen as a consequence of what it says. We won't test their code directly. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
This may be wrong, but this is the feeling I get of why you might. Yeah. So I guess that there's a lot of testing of that sort of higher level consequence stuff, where you just take it as read that the database is going to give you back something, and you're not interested in testing that. You're interested in testing the consequence of it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you didn't use Factory Girl, you would actually have to create something in the database. Blah 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 blah.
Got you.
So that might be bullshit, but that's my sense. And here we go. Cucumber has finally finished, and we've got a failure. And is it something that I have to worry about? Closing the existing video and opening a new one should update player. What? I have no freaking clue why this test has suddenly started failing. Yeah, this seems to happen quite a lot. Things just suddenly fail on you.
Have you been working with Cucumber a lot? Because this is something we haven't covered at all.
Yeah, so I'm not, I'm sort of getting used to it by exposure gradually, but I wouldn't claim that I know much about it. I mean, it seems to be pretty straightforward. What I just did there was write the word cucumber, and it did something very similar to RSpec. I just ran a bunch of tests and then told me whether they succeeded or failed. Do you know Cucumber at all? Like, do you want me to try and explain the tiny bits of it that I feel confident?
That would be wonderful.
Maybe confident is just too strong a word, but okay. So you have
slightly less confused.
Yeah. So you have. I think this is standard in a Rails project that it will create a features folder as well as a spec one. I'm not sure, but anyway, so you have two separate folders. By convention. So spec would be RSpec tests, basically, or unit tests if you were using something either too archaic to even use RSpec. But features is basically Cucumber, I think. There might be other feature testers. But the idea, or at least the way that people tend to use them, as I understand it, is that RSpec tends to do, like I was saying, if you imagine a hierarchy of tests, where at the bottom what you're testing is sort of the most granular activity, like if I run this method with this input, I expect this output.
Yeah, kind of like the back-end logic, if you like.
Yeah, exactly. And then at the top end of it, you've got something that basically is trying as much as possible to simulate a user experience. So it's like, if I go to the projects page on website one and I click start to hang out on air, it should, I don't know, something should pop. I don't actually know how you would even test that. Again, that's a Google API, so maybe that's a bad example. But if I go here and I click project actions, I should see this drop down, for example, and it should have these things. And if I click create new document, I should be taken to the new document page. So that's the sort of top level tests where you're saying you're really trying to describe what is going to happen to a user at the site. And that's, I think, the ideal for what Cucumber does. I mean, Thomas kind of constantly stressed to me that this is far from an ideal project. It's open source. It's got a lot of people contributing of various skills and opinions and whatever. So he personally thinks that some of these feature tests are too granular. But so I'll take this one for example, because this is one that we worked on a little bit. So this is a feature file. Let's see if I can explain this.
I'm noticing, just for clarification, I'm noticing that the files don't have file types, basically. So in our spec you will have Ruby files, right?
Yeah.
It seems like, are there file types here, or?
I think .feature is a file type. I'm not totally sure.
Feature. Okay, so I couldn't. I don't have. Yeah, the resolution is not good enough.
Sorry. Let me expand it for you.
Yeah, I thought it was underscore feature. No, cool. The text itself is visible. It's just the file names which are tiny.
Yeah, and I don't know how I can expand this pane.
No, you can't. No, I've tried.
All right, I'll give up on that one then. Okay, but yeah, so they say, yeah, so what you can't see is that this one is called user_status.feature.
Yeah.
And everything else in this folder here is called something.feature.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is the file type. So yeah, down here you have these kind of these outlines. I think sort of maybe I don't really know exactly what they do. I think they tell it what type of technology it's going to test. So I think there's a lot going on behind the scenes on these lines, and I basically wouldn't pay attention to them too much for now because they're not sort of basic Cucumber, I think. But then below them you have like, the idea of this stuff is it's quite English. It's basically, it is almost English. So you have, say, a scenario which is, again, this is probably literally just English. So set status is probably not a very good example of one here.
So that's basically the title of the test.
So it should maybe be setting status or something, but I won't change that right now because I'm on a different branch. So yeah, you have a scenario colon and then a sentence that describes something a user does typically and what you would expect to happen as a consequence. I guess set status, someone thought was fairly self-explanatory. Then in slightly less natural English, but still pretty non-programming ease, you have these lines that start with either given, and I think there's also a when, but we don't seem to have one there. There'll be one of 4 keywords basically, either given, and then, or when, and basically all those 4 lines are functionally identical. All those 4 keywords are functionally identical. They sort of set this out to be picked, set what follows up to be picked up somewhere that I'll show you in a second. So basically everything that follows this, we're going to search for somewhere else. And again here, we're going to search for somewhere else. And basically this is not code, obviously, but you can sort of link it to code. So if let's see if I do like I'm on my, if I just search for that. 'cause I can't actually remember off the top of my head where. So so I'll show you that. So I'm just searching within Sublime for any files that have this phrase "I am on right," and you'll see like there is a lot of repetition across different files, and the reason for that is because we're gonna find that phrase, and so somewhere in the program there's something that searches that phrase and does something with it. I'm trying to find where that would be. Um, um, where is it? I can't probably remember where it sits now. Step definitions. Oh, here we go. Yeah, so then you have, so then this is Ruby, and you probably can't see, but this is what I was looking for. So you have this folder called step definitions, and I think each of these files is gonna sort of, I don't know, it's not like directly linked, but I guess I'll just take a specific one. So let's take this user file. So you can see here it's got like this text here, given I have an avatar image app, and this is within a sort of regular expression matcher, kind of. Well, so it's going to find, this file in Ruby is actually going to say, look for this text in the feature files, and this is a regular expression matcher as well. So this is allowing for more generality, so you don't have to hard code where the avatar image might be because it might appear on multiple pages. So this is just saying like we're going to look for the line, and this there's a lot of stuff happening in the sort of black box here, but I think you just sort of have to take on trust for now that this whole line one here looks up something that matches this up to here. So it's like given the text, this with something that fits here, basically anything, I think, or anything in quote marks maybe, and then you sort of specify what to do having found this. So having found this in a file, you're gonna assign this bit of code to it. Is this making any kind of sense?
Very generally, but yeah, I think so. It's kind of how do I put it? Yeah, it's linking it to the code, kind of the natural language text of the test, linking it to proper code. That's what I get from it.
Yeah, I think that's about the size of it. I mean, that's sort of almost as far as I can kind of.
But when you're writing Cucumber test, you basically need to write both sides of it, the test itself and the linkage.
Yeah, but what you would often do is reuse it. I guess that's the main thing. So you language things, or sort of almost natural language things, that are very specifically linked to a bit of code. So if you had a bit of code in one of your tests that said, I have an avatar at blah, it wouldn't trigger this because that's not going to match this matcher. It's not going to trigger this matcher. So it's sort of, you have to, I guess, to get the most from it, you have to kind of stick to the conventions you've set yourself elsewhere in your code. So this allows you to sort of dry up your code so you don't have to constantly rewrite, given I have an avatar image at, I have an avatar at, one has an avatar at, all these different things. So you're trying to stick with the same phrase and change it only where the value of something might actually change, like here. And then that allows you to sort of have a lot of generality across these Cucumber tests. So I guess, this one sort of looks a bit more I'm not sure what's actually happening here. I guess. Well, I guess this is just doing what it looks like. Link. I'm not sure what link. Oh, link. I think there's a bit of code here when you've got a block afterwards, after this cucumber matcher and a single item in it. I think this item is the thing that was matched. That's the sort of regex in the cucumber matcher. So it's not the whole thing. It's sort of what it sounds like, right? You would have an image at, and this is going to be a link to a page or something. So then here, link is going to be assigned to this.
Yeah.
And then you're going to set, presumably for the remains of the feature test down here where you're doing other stuff, you've set this variable avatar link to this bit here. So maybe more intuitively, you got the stuff lower down, like simpler ones, hard coded for a start. So we just say, given I'm logged in, which we probably define somewhere else. So that's what we are defining here. So this is saying, like, if you see the hard coded text, I am logged in. That means we're going to create a user and we're going to sign in as that user. And
yeah, that's clear.
Yeah, and I don't know where these exactly are defined, but we can get what they're going to do. So that's Cucumber as well as I can describe it. It's a lot of stuff going on that that I'm not so good at. But I mean, even these kind of more complicated bits aren't too scary. Within, and then you've got a CSS selector. So basically saying specifically on the bit of the page that is in that bit, don't look outside that bit. We're going to fill in user email with blah, fill in blah with blah, and then click button, sign it, and then all this stuff is kind of RSpec-y, I guess.
This looks just like Capybara, basically.
That's the one I was going for. Yeah. So it's not like it does anything at a high level that's wildly different from RSpec and Capybara. But I guess the point is the presentation of it is that it allows you to come out with a much less technical sounding, top level file where you can almost in real English. You could show this page basically to a non-programmer who, someone who's never seen programming in their life, and as long as you told them to ignore the bits that said at JavaScript and whatever, the idea, I guess, is that they could just read it and say, I can read this stuff, and if I read it all, I will know what happens on your page.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing that if you know what you're doing on I mean, the linkage side looks complicated to set up. This is both readable and logical to an extent. It's just how do you set up that linkage part, which looks challenging.
Yeah, I've never actually done it. I mean, this is everything I'm explaining to you is sort of from having poked around and seen what was already there.
Yeah, it's a shame this wasn't covered at Makers, basically. I understand they later on incorporated it, and even the next score had already done some Cucumber, but
yeah, I guess different people. I think that was the week Enrique was away and Steve was teaching. And Steve doesn't like Cucumber, and I guess that's a valid choice. It seems like a lot of projects just don't use Cucumber. It's not like it's not an essential tool, but because obviously it's not testing your code in a way that you couldn't do with RSpec. It's just making what the tests are testing for more like readable English.
Yeah, even though I don't know if it's how much better it is, if at all, than Capybara. I found Capybara, and admittedly I know very little, obviously, but I found Capybara not very difficult to work with. um, in terms of setting it up and getting it to actually test things. Do you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
understand logic, but you want Capybara to test JavaScript, and it gets very complicated very quickly, and sometimes, refuses to do stuff for no apparent reason. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know. I suspect that Cucumber is not really any different in that respect, because I don't think that what's happening under the hood is wildly different from our spec in Capybara.
yeah,
But it's just kind of, yeah, it sort of allows you to enter your requests in a different way. So it's sort of you interface with it in a different way, but I think what your interface then tells it to do is going to be pretty similar. I might be talking bullshit here. Getting all of this, as I say, from just sort of having poked around and done tiny bits of this, actually, tiny bits of this with Thomas guiding me. Um, but yeah, so that's what I understand about Capybara. I've just seen Sam is online, so I'm just going to send her an email. Um, uh, So I don't know. Yeah, so if she says yes, then I guess I'd better go off and do that. Oh, if she doesn't, then what would be the next thing? I guess I'll show you sort of where. So I'll show you what progress, such as it is, we've made towards this feature I was telling you I was working on. Lost the page to close it. I think I might just end up going into Makers again. It seems like a lot less hassle than this hit chat stuff. Where did we put it? Oh, yeah, sorry. It's not live. So if I do, I can just show you. Oops. Oh, hello. Uh, let me just quickly show you what we've done, and then I will have to disappear, I think.
yeah, no problem.
So I really Safari. I had to start using it because Chrome started crashing repeatedly, but just seems to constantly localhost colon it constantly deletes my history, which is really irritating. I forgot that it's otherwise. Yeah, okay. So this is my local simulated version of website one with only these 6 members and so on. And I think if we go to dashboard, oh yeah, you can see we've got these extra 2 bits of data here.
Yep.
And then where do we? I thought it was on this page. So we put in this ridiculous. We just basically copied the map code in its sort of hard version over to. I thought it was this page I'm looking at. I'm slightly confused. Yeah, I don't know why that didn't work the first time. So yeah, you can see we've got sort of semi-dynamic. I don't know. It doesn't work very well. That's the other thing. Seems like sometimes you have to refresh it a few times to get it to do anything useful. Uh, yeah, okay. So this is basically the last thing I wanted to show you, and then I'll have to disappear. So this is pretty much the same thing we saw on their website here. It's taken all their random data as it is from this page here, and we've just dropped it data, random data and all straight onto the page, just so we had something to look at. It's not linked, it's still not linked to anything. It's not appearing in a very good place. It's not letting you do too much, and it seems to keep disappearing like this, which isn't that helpful either. But yeah, that's the progress we've made so far. So yeah,
it's not working as it should, but it looks impressive. I mean, the whole kind of feature with the API, with the testing, it's you're saying it's tiny, but it looks serious.
yeah. Well, hopefully it will look seriouser still eventually. But yeah, on that note, I guess I should close.
Yeah, go to man. I very much appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for taking the time and kind of guiding me through. It's
Yeah,
been,
no worries. So like Sam was saying, they have like scrums something like 3 or 4 times a day. So there'll be another one this evening. Oops. Yeah, so I think there's another scrum this evening. Come here, you stupid bloody. Yeah. So if you if you wanted to actually work on that branch, having seen it, I think Thomas said he was going to be around, so he could maybe sort of, do some stuff with you, given.
sure.
I'm probably not going to be around. I've got to travel I've got a 3-hour journey ahead of me.
Oh, really? Where are you going? Back home?
I'm sort of commuting between a flat at the weekends and my family place on weekdays, because that being my family home gives my girlfriend a shorter commute to work. So yeah, that means like 3 hours to get there.
Yeah.
So yeah, so anyway, on that note, I should disappear. But yeah, so here we go. So in basically whatever that is, 7 o'clock, there will be a scrum, and if you went in there and said, look, I've been looking at this stuff with Sasha, specifically the statistics branch. So maybe that would be a good thing for me to start working on. Then possibly, depending on whether Thomas is free, you could do something on that.
Yeah, I'll try and make it. I'm not sure I can make it this evening, but I'll definitely try and make the kick-off meeting tomorrow.
Yeah.
You gonna be around for this?
I probably I hadn't heard about it till like Sam mentioned it in the scrum.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll try and make it. What I would say also with this whole thing is it took me a few pokes to get sort of. It wasn't like there was anything stopping me, but I had tech problems at the beginning which didn't help. But I kept kind of coming on and finding I was just landing on whoever was free on whichever project. And I think in retrospect, what I would do if I did it again was say, okay, someone give me a project to work on, and I'm just going to worry about that, and not just try and grab onto whatever's going at the time, because then you end up, every single project, you come into it and it looks like this, 500 million different files and 500 new APIs to learn, and one at a time for me is plenty.
Yeah, that sounds like good advice, definitely.
Yeah, so like Sam is always keen to get people pairing, and he'll say, you can pair with us and do this thing, or you can pair with him and do this thing. I think in retrospect, I'll say I'm going to try. And this also maybe depends on what else you would be doing with your time instead. But assuming you can fill your time valuably without pairing, then I would suggest just saying, okay, give me a project, I will work on that as much as I can, and then do my own thing when that's not available.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I will catch you later on, probably tomorrow in the thing.
Cool. Thanks, man. Thanks a lot, and have a
No
good.
worries. Yeah, catch you later.
All right, later, man.